are you doing there? Come here. Always wants to be part of it. Okay. I'll give you food later. Okay, second video. This one about racial ambiguity. And I recorded this video before, but I was saying racial ambiguity. Oh my god. So I'm re-recording it because it's gonna bother me later. But I'll probably mispronounce it again, so I'm aware. Like I was saying in the previous video, I grew up in a very small town in Brazil. My family was the only one of two Japanese families in the city, and both Japanese families had businesses. So everyone already knew each other because it's such a small town. But because they all had businesses, then everyone, and we looked different, everyone knew us for those reasons too. I would say I felt at the same time excluded, but mostly I felt a little bit special for being different. And I think that's because in Brazil, I think mostly everywhere, but in Brazil, the stereotype of Japanese people are very honest, hardworking, smart people. And I think with time, I kind of learned to strive to become the stereotype in that way, because those are things I want to be anyway and things that I agree on. Brazil is the second country with more Japanese people outside of Japan. So in Brazil, if you are Asian looking, everyone automatically assumes you are Japanese. Different than in the United States, where people usually assume you are Chinese, right? So yeah, okay, that's the background how I grew up and feeling a little bit different. And I think I never felt like I suffered racism or anything like that. Sometimes I did feel excluded, but I wouldn't say it was racism. I wouldn't say it got to that. But everything flipped when I moved to the US because here, no one knows what I am. I've had people ask me if I'm Japanese or Chinese, Mongolian, Filipino, Thai, Mexican, Latino in general. So no one knows, and people usually project onto me their own prejudices, their own stereotypes before I even have a chance to say anything. And that was definitely something I had to adjust. I've had multiple instances where people would underestimate or over sexualize me because most people think of Brazilians as party people and they think of carnival and beaches. And that's not something that I liked. I felt like it was a very shallow stereotype. So it was kind of the opposite. I wasn't proud of the stereotype that I was carrying with me, different than in Brazil where I strived to be like the stereotype, but here was the opposite. So I felt like everything flipped. And I felt very lost in that way here because I was like, well, I'm obviously Brazilian and I'm proud to be Brazilian, but it's so frustrating when people make those assumptions before I can even say anything. I struggled for a while and there was a lot of shame involved because of course I don't want to be embarrassed of where I'm from, where all my family is from and where all my best friends are from. That was something that I had to just accept, that people will have the stereotypes that they have. Being racially ambiguous. Okay, I think I got it. Racially ambiguous has affected me for the longest time. I think even here, I never suffered racism. I've had some more uncomfortable situations, especially in the beginning of COVID, when I've had a few people think I'm Chinese and they treated me very badly because they thought I was going to spread COVID to all of them in the room. But other than that, I never suffered with racism here in the United States or in Brazil. It's just something that's always like I'm very aware of because of the differences that I experienced. Maybe if I was still in Brazil and I didn't have this flip happen where first I'm striving to be the stereotype and then I'm kind of going against it and wanting to prove otherwise, I wouldn't have thought so much about it. But then with all of that and then living with people from all over the globe and seeing the stereotypes that they have to deal with, all the differences and all the nuances, I think was very interesting. I think that's why I think about it so much too, especially because I'm married with someone from a very different culture than mine. Thai culture is very different from Brazilian culture, and it's very different from American culture, which are the two cultures that I'm more used to. So that's definitely something that added another layer. I can see the differences that he experiences and that I experience, even the differences that we experience together when we tell people that he's Thai and I'm Brazilian. and people are very confused. Immediately, if I say first that I'm Brazilian or half Japanese or whatever, they assume he is still the same as me. So then because anyway, it's always like dealing with how I feel like I'm perceived before I can say anything. And I think this topic and all of the other topics that I'm going to talk about, they're kind of general and experiences that a lot of people have for sure. But I still think it's interesting to think about it and, I don't know, just reflect, even if it's not something necessarily awesome or necessarily horrible. It's just something that happens and it is what it is, and I like to think about it. So yeah, okay, I think this is enough of this topic. The next one is gonna be multiple languages, existing in multiple languages, and how languages also have a big impact in my life and the way that I think. I want to talk about that one too. Bye.